Hi, and welcome to Tremco Live, where we're socially distanced but technically connected. Once again, I'm very excited to be able to come to you guys on Friday, every Friday so far, and be able to engage with you in a way that we can't do as we used to in person. We want to be able to talk to you guys about construction trends. We want to talk to you about your design challenges. I always am happy to introduce my co-host, because I am Marcy Tyler, the Director of Building Science for Tremco, and I'm with Paul.
Yeah, I'm Paul Hoogenboom, and I'm the President of the Tremco Construction Products Group, Marcy, a fine global collections of products and companies and all kinds of good stuff. What do you have for us today?
Well, I'm pretty excited. Well, earlier today I was over at the test wall, so I did post a new video from there, so you'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Dante and I played catch with a brick, so pretty interesting to check that out. It sounds dangerous.
What kind of brick?
Exactly. It sounds dangerous, but it wasn't. It was with new brick, so that was pretty cool. Just as you mentioned, we are excited to be able to be here and have so many different products, services, brands all behind us, and of course, people. This is the third segment based on restoration. So this time we are all talking about the roof. And I need to apologize to you, Paul. I think a few weeks back, not on screen, but I said, Paul, roofs are boring. The walls are so much more interesting. Well, I did a lot of research since we last spoke, and I have to say, roofs are not boring.
I agree with that, but probably the reason you think they're boring is they're the most out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the foundation's a little out of sight too, but you can see the four walls and the facade, but the roof is very much out of sight, out of mind.
So it was a great journey. Every week's a great journey. So we're pretty excited tonight to be able to talk about that. So what we've got for you today is we've got two guests and some great information that we want to be able to share with you. So to start it off, we always like to start off with, of course, just recognizing all of those brands and, of course, all of the people that are behind Paul and I as we sit here today. We like to say, capping off your Friday with a nice little Tremco Live event.
Yeah, something a little light, a little educational.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. So talking about the roof this time around, we thought it would be very important for us to talk about where we came from and go back in time.
Yeah, so what's cool about this slide is it'll answer the question, where did the name Tremco come from? Yep. So the founder of Tremco, 1928, I believe, William C. Treuhoff. So we'll demystify the name Treuhoff real fast. TRE, those are the first three letters in Tremco. M for manufacturing, Marcy. CO for company.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, pretty simple. And so there's another interesting intersection of William C. Treuhoff and RPM, Republic Powdered Metals. So the other really cool part of Tremco and where we are today, part of almost a $6 billion RPM family of companies, is very early on, William C. Treuhoff had an office boy by the name of Frank C. Sullivan. And Frank C. Sullivan then went on in the roofing coatings industry to be a very, very successful salesman. And in 1947, with the capital from his successful sales career, founded Republic Powdered Metals, RPM. And long then had a vision. He died suddenly, I believe in 1971, but he shared that vision with his son, Tom Sullivan, of one day buying Tremco. And that happened in 1997. And he had a vision of what would happen when we would bring together Tremco, which was really always about keeping good roofs good, founding statement, and Republic Powdered Metals, which was about fluid applied restoration. So that 1928, 1947 to today. Yeah. And so a little bit of history on William C. Treuhoff and Frank C. Sullivan.
And that might be something a lot of you listening did not know. Yeah. Because I learned that honestly in the research that I was doing. So I didn't even know that. And I started with Tremco back in '95. Yeah. So I was with Tremco before we were purchased by RPM. So I was there during that time frame, and it was a pretty interesting thing in that coming together, it was such a good fit.
And it's the vision of the original two founders, if you will. Yeah. And of course today our CEO and chairman, my boss, Frank C. Sullivan, is the grandson.
Yep.
of that same Frank C. Sullivan. So there you have it, a little bit of interesting history.
Yeah, I'm going to thank Kent Anderson for providing us with some of the pictures on the left-hand side there, and it's very interesting just to see that history, as you mentioned, all the way back to 1928. And
again, I always enjoy that our founding principles about keeping good roofs good and restoration, again, that's a key theme for today, really haven't changed since both 1928 for Tremco and 1947 for RPM.
Another interesting note that I learned by going into this Encyclopedia of Cleveland History was that there was a lot of philanthropy work that Mr. Treuhoff did as well. Yeah. So that's definitely really coincides with the Sullivan.
Yeah, and I think the Sullivans have a very similar history. Started with Frank's grandfather, and then absolutely Tom, and now Frank and Barb. That whole culture, if you will, or values of giving back to the Northeast Ohio and Greater Cleveland community. Yeah, it's actually quite a legacy of William C. Treuhoff and certainly the Sullivans.
Yeah, I was able to tour the Medina offices this last summer, and just walking back to the lodge from the office, Randy McShepard and I had a great conversation about the history of our location out there, and that it was a horse farm, and I don't know, I felt so great to be able to be a part of this organization.
Yeah, there's a lot of history and heritage, and again, what I always, it almost gives me goosebumps sometimes, Marcy, is it is still exactly the same culture and values and our operating principles today. Who knew? Stood the test of time.
Stood the test of time. That's great. So that's some history. If you weren't familiar with that, we definitely wanted to bring that to everybody today. And then we wanted to give you a snapshot of where we're at today. And I think Paul has challenged previous guests, and he's probably going to challenge y'all right now, is if you have a roof, let us know how to restore it, because we'll be able to figure out a way. And I researched and came up with just a few options here that I have on screen. The Bio, the AlphaGuard Bio, right? The no odor product. I was at a demonstration with Marty Jakovics, and while I was presenting, he was applying product in the back of the room, and I had no idea. Yeah. So that's pretty innovative.
Yeah, that Bio, the ability to do work in fully occupied public space is a big deal today. And of course, Bio Preferred, it can get up to a 70% Bio rating, which is pretty cool.
That's right. And then I was just, of course, learning a lot, as always, from the Contractor Corner by Corey. Yep. So that's a great resource of information that you can see online. And then you mentioned shingle restoration. So, of course, I did some research there, and I was pretty impressed with the opportunities that are within that.
Yeah, I think the principle of restoration is trying to leave in place the waterproofing you already bought. Don't disrupt what goes on within that building. Don't disrupt the tenants. And yet provide a long life solution that avoids all the pitfalls of tear off and replace. So some pretty cool stuff in metal that you see on the screen here. And that's really sort of, again, a core principle. And then I guess you see key down below, quite a breakthrough as well on the single ply there as well.
Yeah, some pretty innovative products. That's where we're at right now. We also wanted to make sure that we could walk through the process of the services that we can provide at Tremco. So from that restoration point of view, we'll be able to come out and do an assessment and walk you through that, because we talked about what is, and now we're going to talk a little bit about what's next with our next guest, who is Mike Steele. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about product innovation and where we're heading.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Before we get started, what do you do for Tremco, Mike?
Yes, I'm the Vice President of Product and Technical Solutions. So all the chemistry and products that Larry and other sales reps use come and are derived from my group in R&D, and we do our best to provide unique solutions that set our sales reps apart from the competition.
Perfect. Very good. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here. And, part of that innovation process is, we have 4 key bullet points that we look at every single time we develop a product. And the first one is always labor savings. How do we take labor steps out? There is a shortage of laborers, roofers, installers. And we want to try to make it as user-friendly as possible so that they can get on a roof and off a roof as quickly as possible with as few interruptions as possible. We also look at unique and superior performance criteria. So how do we make, whether it's a new product or a next generation, better than the last, or what is existing out there, whether it be ours or someone else's. We're always comparing against and designing for the future. We looked at advanced polymer technology. So how do we take something that maybe is utilized in another industry or another market? How could that technology help us in roofing to become a better product line? And then, of course, we're trying to solve a problem that's thought to be either near impossible or impossible. And since 2015, when we've really stepped up our game in innovation, we've launched 46 new products and services. And that's quite a feat for, considering the size team we have. We're at least targeting 2 a year. I think this year we're going to put out between 5 and 7 new products, and there's a lot going on at all times, and we'll talk about 2 of those right now. One is our next gen Puma technology. So Puma is polyurethane methacrylate blended product, and why that's important is Larry's talking about tight weather windows in Alaska. Puma is a type of technology that can help with that. So whether it be in extreme weather down to -20 or up in the triple digits, Puma technology performs very, very well. And we look at, low odor as being a major concern of typical MMA technology. Well, this one has about 35 gram per liter VOC, and it is ultra low odor. It's probably more in line with maybe our MTS line, maybe a little more odor than that. Obviously a little subjective, but it doesn't cause concern when you open up a can and you're working on a rooftop that maybe has intake vents or open windows down below. And we look at the product is a fast cure. Depending on how much powder catalyst you put in it, you can get it to cure as quickly as 15 to 20 minutes. We talked about the temperature range, and that temperature range is what helps us extend the roofing season. So being able to go in and do more work in less time is what's important. So you got the extremes of Alaska where you only have a 2.5 month window to work. Another extreme is Florida, where you have rain almost every day at 2 p.m. Well, by the time you get the roof dried off, it may only be 10 a.m. You've already wasted 3-4 hours of daylight. The idea is you can go in and do a roof restoration in a few hours, get the roof down and not have to worry about it washing off or not being cured. By the time the rain sets in, the product is cured, and the roofing contractor can be rest assured that they're not going to have to come up the next day and redo the work. So that's one technology that is on our low slope offering. The other way we'll shift over to steep slope. So we have a couple options for shingles now, but they aren't a true restoration. They're metal options to go over existing shingles. Well, this technology is a cleaner plus coating system that allows us to go either on a new roof or an existing shingle roof, clean the product, and put down a UV cure coating system that is water-based or solvent-based. We have 2 versions, and it can be applied to any shingle and provide a long-term warranted solution. So the idea is we can go up to the roof like you see there in the picture, the restorable. We can clean it back to a pretty new look and put down the shingle coating that will lock in the granules, provide a UV coating, and stabilize the roof for long term. If you look at a shingle today and what the warranty is written around, there's not a lot of meat on the bone. What we're looking at doing is coming into these shingle opportunities and providing a coating system that actually provides a warranty for that roof and gives the customer peace of mind that they have a solution that will give them long-term performance.
Well, this is just some of the reasons why roofing isn't boring, right, Paul?
Well, I know, Mike, when we first brought this topic up some years ago, right? There's a bit of a head scratcher, right? Because I think, the challenges that you listed up there, right? Those have always really stood in the way. So those are quite some things that you and your team tracked down.
Absolutely, and you have to identify what the challenges are as you're designing these products. You want to make sure that you're making it robust enough that it can accommodate most or all situations, but then you also want to know what the pitfalls are and what you're up against, and that's why having those challenges identified are very important.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that was real exciting was, in the beginning I kept thinking, it's all about the coating. I think, Mike, it's as much about the cleaner, right, as the surface prep as the coating, and the cleaning might have been an even bigger technical challenge for us. Any comments or thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. We certainly wanted to get away from bleach as a cleaner. Obviously, it has a lot of implications to the environment and to surfaces that it may come in contact with. So having a non-bleach formula that you can spray on and rinse off versus having to agitate and clean is a big deal, and it's quite a challenge to get there. There are not many products out there in the cleaning industry, period, that could achieve this to any degree of certainty. And with any restoration, starting with a sound, clean, dry substrate is number one. So shingles are no different.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I think we didn't realize up front was going to be such a handful was the fire rating. Can you share a few thoughts on unlimited Class A? That's a heck of an accomplishment. Can you share a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So shingles inherently are Class A fire rated, unlimited slope, meaning 5 and 12 slope or greater, and it's achieved purely through the granules. So if you took a shingle without granules on it, they would pretty much have no fire rating to them. They would not be able to achieve what they do. And as a shingle ages, as you go up in your roof and look in your gutters, granules fall off. And as the granules fall off, you start to have issues with achieving that fire rating on an existing. The idea is that this coating has a robust fire package within it that it can retain and keep that unlimited slope rating even on a weathered shingle.
Well, wow. I mean,
I took a bunch of notes. I'm calling you later. No, it's Friday. I'll call you Monday. It's really got me thinking about a bunch of things here.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you sharing with us a couple of these in terms of where we're going. And sounds like if it's 2 a year, we ought to have you on at least once a year to have you tell us where you're going.
Exactly.
Sounds good. I'd be happy to.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. So that was a great broadcast today. We got to go back in time and say where we started, where we're at, and where we're headed. I know we always like to talk about what's next, and I've got a couple things in the works. We might be on site. Obviously, next Friday is a holiday, so Paul and I are going to be working on something that we'll be able to send out, not on Friday, but prior to, with the help of Elise Bigley, of course. And then the following Friday, I'm working on a couple of things, so I can't tell exactly what it's going to be at this point. It's a bit of a surprise.
You're thinking we might go on site?
We might go on site somewhere, yeah.
All right, make sure it doesn't rain. Marcy.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then we're working on a whole new lineup after that. So we'll have a whole new series of things. I think this time around, we're going to really start to focus on case studies and, of course, having guests on. I think that has really helped, I think, with our messaging and our education. So once again, keep sending in your ideas on case studies and guests, and we'll start getting that scheduled out. So we'll have more for you next time.
All right. Well, Marcy.
That's it.
I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today.
See ya.